Hi, I'm Mike. Water is life, and without it, life on the ranch can be in jeopardy. This week, we saw that firsthand when we had no water for over 36 hours. How do you deal with a water outage when you have hundreds of animals, including your own family, needing and wanting just a drop? Well, that's coming up today on our Wyoming Life. What does water do for the ranch? Not only does it help crops grow, but it's also the essence of life. Without it, we'd see our land turn into a desert, and the animals would find it inhospitable. But why? Well, the first answer is that with no water, there's nothing for the animals to eat. The prairie dries up, and everything from a bunny to a cow is either driven away or dies from starvation. With no prey, the predators move on as well, and we're left with nothing but a wasteland. But water does much more than just grow the crops that the cottontail and her friends enjoy. Water is essential to every animal, great or small, as it helps deliver oxygen all over the body, converts food into components needed for survival. It also regulates our body temperature and acts as lubrication for our joints. And you, the cow, and the bunny are made up of over 60% water. For our friend the cow, who is now very pregnant and due to have her calf any time now, she requires between 1 to 2 gallons of water per 100 pounds of weight. If she weighs 1,300 pounds, that means we have to have between 13 to 26 gallons of water available for her. With over 100 cows, that's over 2,500 gallons of water that they need every day. The average bathtub holds about 80 gallons, so we need 30 bathtubs full of water for all these cows to quench their thirst. In addition, we have families living on the ranch, a total of 6 of us, including my mother-in-law and a couple of dogs, some chickens, and pigs, all counting on the fact that when you turn on the spigot, water flows. But what happens when it doesn't? On the ranch, there's no such thing as city water, or utilities for that matter. Aside from electricity, we're completely independent. We use propane for heat and cooking, our sewage is handled by our own septic system, and we find our own water, located sometimes deep beneath the surface of our own land. When your water supply is provided by a well, you're directly responsible for water quality and treatment. Meanwhile, city water is treated before it reaches your home, and much like any other age-old question, there are plenty of debates about which is better and what is better for you. Well water is not accompanied by a water bill, and because well water is normally coming from an aquifer instead of runoff or surface water, it tends to be a little bit cleaner and fresher and higher in minerals and nutrients. In addition, well water is usually protected from contamination during natural disasters that can disrupt a city's ability to distribute healthy water to homes. But there is a downside to having your own water supply. Well water is dependent upon electricity. It has to be pumped out of the ground, where most municipalities depend on gravity to deliver water to their customers. On the ranch, if electricity goes out, the pump stops, and so does water. For that reason, we have a generator on the ranch that's wired to accept the plug that the well pump uses. It's simply a matter of starting the generator and plugging it in. Water's back up and running. But what happens when the water stops and the electricity is still flowing? In that case, we trace the problem directly to the well and try to determine what is causing the issue. The first culprit is usually the weather this time of year. Our frost line is around 6 feet deep, and all of the plumbing in the well is kept well below that, but occasionally it can still freeze a line. And by keeping a space heater handy, we can heat the well pit and either fix the problem or eliminate freezing as the cause of the trouble. In the pit of each well on the ranch, there are a few components that keep things flowing. A pump in the water is maybe the most important part, but there are plenty others that help maintain a correctly working system. The pressure tank is the core of the system. It's responsible for many important functions, such as maintaining system pressure and allowing for pump relief. A pressure switch signals the pump to start when the pressure drops to a certain level and stop when a higher pressure is reached. A pump controller works along with the pressure switch in a 3-wire system to maintain power going to the pump, allowing it more power when it starts up and when it starts pumping, then regulating power back to its normal routine. While knowing how your well system works is a great first step in understanding why it isn't working, it's also important to know that there are many working parts, and sometimes the best way to avoid unnecessary cost is to call a professional. Unfortunately, when our well went down at the ranch, I was in California. Erin was home alone with the kids and her mom. All of them were without water, along with the cows and the other animals of the ranch. While waiting for the diagnostics and parts for the well, Erin was without water for 36 hours, but she did do it. The cows, well, they require almost 4,000 gallons of water during that time. She needed to flush toilets, wash dishes, and wash kids. For those tasks, we always have a backup. Around here, it's very rare to find a ranch which will have multiple animals and people requiring water to just have one well. Eventually, piping water around the ranch becomes more expensive than just drilling another well. And although that well that we use for our houses, well, they were originally just shallow windmill wells, we have more sources of water close by. Total on the ranch, we have 5 wells. They all vary in depth based on where they're located, and the cost of digging a new well is averaged at about $50 per foot. Our shallowest well, which supplies our houses, is only 35 feet deep, and the deepest is around 600. While none of our wells are plumbed together, and that might be a good idea for the future in case one does go down, our wells are not located too far from each other, and they're pretty evenly spaced throughout the ranch. In fact, our closest to the house is located just across the highway at the old farmhouse, where we can start our days without water by filling a 500-gallon water tank. While cows do have access to ponds that hold water still, even in the winter, that water is nothing but a frozen sheet of ice. They do have a survival instinct, which was with them long before anybody drilled a well out here. Cows, along with almost every other animal on the ranch, will eat snow, but it's not an ideal situation. For every gallon of water that a cow would need, she would have to eat about 10 times that much in snow. To get her 20 gallons, she'd have to eat over 200 gallons of snow. And it's hard to visualize, but here's a good rule of thumb. Each 1 inch of snow over an entire acre melted produces about 3,000 gallons of water. That's an average snow, not a wet snow and not too powdery or dry. So cows would have to eat every bit of snow in an acre, roughly the size of a football field, without losing a drop every single day. Obviously they can't do that, and we need to help, and that's where this big old tank comes in. They'll drink over 4 of these a day, and we keep it around. Usually this one is actually our neighbor Gary's, for just such an occasion. It takes a long time to fill up, a lot less time to empty into the stock tank, and, well, it's also a lot more fun. We also keep the tank close by to the house, full and ready for us to use also. With temperatures hovering in the low teens, it's important that we keep the water thawed, and a tank heater is good for that. Although I wouldn't drink out of it, we do have bottled water for that. We can use the same water the cows do for simple things, like flushing the toilet. Here's a neat trick to try. Did you know that you can flush your toilet with a bucket of water? All you have to do is take roughly a gallon of water and dump it directly into the toilet bowl. This mimics the flushing you would normally do, and by dumping it fast, the shape of the toilet and the pressure from the water pushes everything through the pipes. Now you can remove the lid and fill it that way, but this way is much more fun. Not having water is already hard enough. It doubles, if not quadruples, your workload. And as soon as that water comes back online, you're more thankful than you ever have been in a long time. But it doesn't take long to forget how big of a struggle it was when you couldn't turn on the faucet or nothing happened. There's that one rule that applies to so many things. When they say you don't know what you have until it's gone. The truth is that you knew what you had, you just thought you'd never lose it. Like water or food or air. Thanks for coming along today. The water is back up and running. Turns out the pump was bad, and after replacing it, we're back in business. The cows are happy, and so am I. Please subscribe, continue with us as we explore the ranch life and escape the ordinary. There's always much more to learn, and with everything we learn, every challenge we overcome, we grow. Have a great week, and thanks for joining us in our Wyoming Life.